But this is Jerry Fabyanic and KYGT LPFM 102.7, 103.9, and visiting here with Michael Dougherty. And Michael is a candidate for the Democratic nomination for Attorney General in the state of Colorado. And we are recording the show, by the way. And I'll have it up on my website, and it will be repeated a couple times through the week at the same time, so on Monday and Thursday in particular. So the phrase, Michael, I'm really looking for is criminal justice reform.
Yes.
That's what like this, but talk about that because it's not, wrongful convictions, but we also have this incentive to keep people in jail, put them in jail and keep them in jail. They're called for-profit prisons.
Yes.
There's like something contradiction in my brain here, cognitive dissonance, I think we call it in psychology. Speak about that, please.
Well, I strongly agree with you, Jerry, and profit should have no role in the criminal justice system. We currently have 3 for-profit private prisons owned by large corporations here in Colorado. Last year, Colorado taxpayers, including you and me, paid $78 million for the for-profit prisons. Those prisons, because they're operating for profit, have less incentive to offer programs and to give offenders an actual chance at rehabilitation. They actually have a financial incentive to not give offenders the treatment and programs they need. And the state has found that these private prisons offer fewer substance abuse programs, mental health programs, and other programs that are essential to helping offenders get back on their feet and back on the right track after they're released. We all pay the price for that, Jerry, because in this state, we currently have 48% of all offenders going back to state prison within 3 years of their release. We're doing a complete disservice and an injustice to the offenders, the victims, the community members, and the taxpayers. For-profit prisons should have no role in Colorado. I recently wrote, and if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see, I wrote an article that was picked up by the Colorado Springs Gazette, and I also put a video clip on my Facebook page calling for the elimination of private prisons here in Colorado. I'm absolutely committed to fight to get rid of those prisons. They have no role in the justice system. If you had a prosecutor or a public defender or a judge operating for profit incentives, people would be outraged. I think the same applies to the prison system. Profit has no role in our criminal justice system. That's where we forget about justice and we start focusing on profits. We're making a serious mistake.
Right, and it's a corruption of the free enterprise system is what it gets down to, because now you're in almost human trafficking. When you start engaging in that, and the state is officially engaged in that by having these prisons here. And as you point out, they have the incentive to keep it because they want to make money. That's how they keep money, is to keep prisoners and get more, that sort of thing there too. So, but let's talk about also the recidivism rate. Sure. And that's, when people, men, women released from prison. I have a good friend. She was the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Claire Levy. And she's in charge. I think it's the criminal justice reform. No, it's a law policy. Anyway, Claire, forgive me, I'm butchering the title of your organization there, but she's just been so heavily engaged in this particular aspect of criminal justice, and she's been in visiting with me on the radio. When she was still in the House, right. Our representative, and we're still in contact there. That the injustice of this, that we have these mostly men, but some women as well. They're incarcerated for this lengthy period of time. They probably don't have any resources on the way out, whether they even have a family relationship. It might be strained, whatever. And it seems that once they're released, you take them up on a bus, drop them up on 32nd and Chambers or something like that, and give them $100 and say, good luck with your life. Well, you know how far $100 will get you for a room and board and everything right. like that. What can we do to address that issue?
It's a great question, Jerry, and there's a lot that we can and should do, and as Attorney General, I'm committed to doing it. Claire Levy, who has been and continues to be a leader in criminal justice reform, I'll tell you that after picking up our family and moving out here to Colorado for the Wrongful Conviction Project, I had the privilege of working with Claire on a number of different criminal justice reform initiatives, including drug sentencing reform here in Colorado as one of the point people on that in 2012. We now have fewer people going to state prison for drug offenses. Okay. And we have shorter sentences for those people who go. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but being part of that effort in 2012 and also eyewitness identification reform here in Colorado, and different reform efforts that I've been working on behalf of the district attorneys for is something I'm absolutely committed to continuing as Attorney General. It's that work in part that prompted Claire Levy to endorse my campaign. And Claire's been supporting my campaign for Attorney General. I'm honored to have her support. As Attorney General, I'm going to bring statewide some of the programs that we have in Jefferson County that we've put in place. We have a mental health court, a juvenile mental health court, a drug recovery court, a veterans treatment court. We've recognized that problem-solving courts and diversion programs allow us to keep people from going upstate prison, to lower that number, and to get people back on the right track by recognizing that they're individual offenders with individual needs and not just people who should be warehoused. So we've put in place in Jefferson County and Gilpin County very progressive reform programs that have proven highly successful. I'm going to fight to bring those statewide as Attorney General, and I'm going to go to the legislature and push the state to help the counties with the funding that's required to run programs such as those. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to recidivism and criminal justice reform, but I've been working on it for 20 years, and I'm going to continue doing it as Attorney General.
Yeah, and Michael, you also brought up there, for example, the Veterans Court and drug rehab and so forth. And this recent case here, and most of us are familiar with it, and that's the Aaron Hernandez, the former football player, who was found guilty of murder of one of his best friends back, 3-4 years ago, whatever, sentenced to prison. And then back in April, he committed suicide in prison. So his family had donated his brain, and they did some studies on it, and that's CTE, and I'll never get it right. It's chronic traumatic encephalogy. It's that impact. Now, that's one side of the issue there. What we are mostly young men, with football and everything it's causing us. But on the other hand, I think also put it in context of what we look at mental illness. And so when we, for example, a classic example of that is with President Ronald Reagan and John Hinckley, and how he attempted to assassinate the President of the United States, yet was found, insane, whatever, and institutionalized. So we allow for that in our justice system. There's no way to detect CTE until we do an autopsy on the body and other things like that. But it leads to that larger issue, why people do what they do, and is there some ways we can address that without throwing away people, putting them into prison? And admittedly, we want to get the bad people off the street and lock them up, to keep the rest of us safe. I mean, you do the crime, you do the time. Hopefully, we were talking about that before, about white collar. But, that's not to excuse behavior, but to get at the depth of it, because I think the vast majority of people, maybe I'm overstating it, who do wrongful stuff really don't intend to. They're not bad people, and there's reasons for that. And we mentioned, like, the veterans, maybe PTSD, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't know, I'm waxing philosophical, but I'd like for you to react to that.